The galaxy was vast, filled with uncountable worlds and unimaginable life forms, some peaceful, some dangerous, and others simply savage. Among the most feared predators were the Ranax, an alien species known for their ruthless hunting skills, immense physical strength, and ability to adapt to any environment. They were apex predators, and their name struck fear into the hearts of those who crossed their path. But there was one thing the Ranax had underestimated: humanity. Captain Maya Fletcher stood at the helm of the Phoenix, the battered starship she and her crew had called home for the past 5 years. Her face was set with grim determination as she watched the flickering hologram of the Ranax fleet on the bridge's display. "They think they can take us," Fletcher muttered under her breath, gripping the armrests of her seat. "They think they can hunt us down like animals." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Jalen Ross, looked over at her. "We won't make it out of this unless we fight back, and we need to use their underestimation against them." Fletcher nodded. The Ranax might have the size and strength, but they had no idea what they were up against. Humans weren't just survivors, they were innovators, adaptable. Most importantly, they fought for each other. The Ranax had been pursuing them for weeks, ever since the crew of the Phoenix had stumbled upon a secret Ranax outpost on a remote moon. Inside, they found technology that could potentially shift the balance of power in the galaxy. The Ranax wanted it back, and they had been relentless in their pursuit. But there was a flaw in their thinking. They didn't know the depths of human cunning. The Ranax flagship loomed large in the sky, casting a shadow over the mountainous terrain below. Its sleek, metallic surface reflected the harsh rays of the nearby star, an intimidating sight to any who saw it. But for Maya, it was just another challenge. "We'll lure them in," she said, her voice steady and cold. "We'll give them exactly what they expect. Then, we'll show them how a real predator operates." With a few precise commands, the Phoenix initiated a series of false distress signals, transmitting distress calls across multiple frequencies. The signals would be just believable enough to make the Ranax think the Phoenix was vulnerable, an easy target. It would draw them in. And when they arrived, they would find something far different. Hours later, the Ranax fleet appeared in orbit, their ships descending like vultures to a carcass. They thought they had won. They thought they had trapped their prey. The Phoenix was a tiny speck in the vastness of space, but Maya knew the true nature of their strength. The crew had spent weeks preparing, setting traps, calibrating weapons, and designing the perfect counterattack. She waited until the moment was right. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she issued the order. The Phoenix was no longer the helpless target it had appeared. It was a predator, silent, swift, and merciless. The ship's advanced cloaking technology engaged, rendering it invisible to the Ranax sensors. Hidden within the asteroid field, the Phoenix launched its first strike. The Ranax flagship was the first to feel the sting. A salvo of high-velocity energy weapons cut through its shields, sending a shockwave of destruction through the ship's hull. Before the Ranax could react, the Phoenix was already gone, darting behind another asteroid, the crew on board moving as one unit. Every action coordinated, every maneuver calculated. The Ranax retaliated, their ships lashing out in all directions, trying to pin down their elusive prey. But humans had an instinct that the Ranax could never understand, an instinct to survive, to adapt. And they had learned it. Maya stood on the bridge, eyes narrowed as the Ranax ships continued to hunt, unaware that they were the ones being hunted. With every move they made, the Ranax revealed more of their strategy, and Maya's crew was ready for each step. Every trap was set with the precision of a predator at the height of its powers. In the end, the Ranax made the fatal mistake of underestimating humanity. The final battle was brutal. The Ranax flagship, crippled from the earlier strikes, finally realized what was happening. They were being outsmarted, but by then, it was too late. With a final, well-placed strike, the Phoenix disabled the flagship's core, sending it into a silent drift into the void. The remaining Ranax fleet quickly scattered, retreating to save what was left of their forces. Maya watched the shattered fleet vanish into the darkness of space, her heart pounding with the rush of victory. Her crew had survived. Against all odds, they had triumphed. She turned to Lieutenant Ross, a smirk on her lips. "Predator and prey, Ross. They thought they were the predators, but we showed them who really hunts." He grinned back. Yes, Captain, and the galaxy will remember the name of humanity. The Phoenix sailed off into the stars, its crew stronger than ever, knowing that they had not only survived but proven that in the wild, in the vastness of space, humans were the true predators. Months had passed since the battle with the Ranax. The Phoenix and its crew had become legends, their victory against the seemingly invincible alien species echoing across the galaxy. News of humanity's cunning and survival spread like wildfire. Another species previously dismissive of humans are now taking notice, some out of fear, others out of respect. Captain Maya Fletcher stood at the bridge, staring out at the stars. Deep in thought, the victory had come at a cost. While the Ranax had been repelled, their defeat had sent ripples throughout the galaxy. A power vacuum had formed, and in the dark corners of space, rival factions and predators were beginning to take notice of Earth and its people. We've made a name for ourselves, Maya said, more to herself than anyone else. But this is only the beginning. Are we expecting trouble, Captain? Lieutenant Ross asked, his tone a mix of curiosity and caution. Maya turned, her gaze sharp. The Ranax are not the only predators out there. There are others who will test us. Some may come seeking revenge, while others may simply want to claim our territory. We need to be ready. We are ready, Ross replied confidently. If there's one thing we've learned from the Ranax, it's that humans are adaptable. We don't just survive, we evolve. Maya nodded, her eyes glinting with determination. Exactly, and we'll be ready for whatever comes next. The first signs of trouble came a few weeks later. Unusual signals from deep within the outer rim of known space. A fleet of ships, unlike anything the Phoenix had encountered before. Their energy readings were off the charts, their approach methodical and precise. Maya's gut told her something was off. This wasn't just another pirate gang or rogue species looking for easy prey. The Iridani, Ross said, confirming her suspicion. He'd done his homework on the alien species before, and their reputation was well known. The Iridani were a race of hyper-intelligent, highly militarized beings, an enigmatic species that had wiped out several civilizations. In their pursuit of technological dominance, they considered themselves the true predators of the galaxy, a title that, until now, had been held by the Ranax. They've been watching us since the Ranax incident, Ross continued, his voice heavy, and now they're coming for us. Maya's fists clenched. The Iridani were not like the Ranax. They were cold, calculating, and they didn't underestimate their prey. If they were coming for Earth, they would take the time to understand humanity, to study its strengths and weaknesses before making their move. Then we'll give them a fight they won't forget, Maya said, determination burning in her eyes. We'll make them see exactly why humans are the ultimate predators. The Phoenix's sensors picked up the Iridani fleet, massive warships that seemed to darken the sky like a shadow. Their ships were designed with advanced stealth technology, making them nearly invisible to most detection systems. Maya wasn't fooled. Humans had developed countermeasures during their previous encounters with the Ranax, and now, it was time to put those to the test. We've got one shot at this, Fletcher said as she paced across the bridge. The Iridani are going to think they can pick us apart one ship at a time, but we're going to show them we don't break under pressure. We fight, back together. The crew moved into action, a well-oiled machine. The Phoenix dropped out of hyperspace into the heart of the Iridani fleet's path. The enemy ships immediately locked onto them, but Maya was prepared. With a few quick commands, she ordered the ship to deploy decoy drones, advanced replicas of the Phoenix designed to confuse and mislead enemy sensors. The Iridani, thinking they were dealing with a fleet, spread out in an attempt to engage each target, but they weren't dealing with a traditional enemy. They were dealing with humans, masters of deception. The Phoenix dropped its cloaking field and fired, sending a salvo of energy blasts at the nearest Iridani ship. The blast rocked the alien vessel, knocking out its shields, but the Iridani were quick to retaliate. Their weapons, designed for destruction, launched with deadly precision, but Maya had already anticipated their moves. With expert piloting, she maneuvered the Phoenix around the attacks, using the asteroid field nearby as cover. We're keeping them off balance, Ross said, watching the chaos unfold. They're not used to prey that fights back this smart. The Iridani realized their mistake far too late. They had underestimated the humans, believing their superior technology and firepower would guarantee victory. But the humans had learned from their mistakes, and now they were fighting for their survival and their future. The final confrontation came when the Eridani flagship, massive and imposing, attempted to break through the human defenses, charging directly at the Phoenix. Maya's mind raced. This was it. She had to make it count. All systems go, she ordered. Prepare for a final strike. The crew worked in perfect unison, launching every weapon at their disposal, from electromagnetic pulses to high-velocity torpedoes, targeting weak points in the Eridani flagship's defenses. The battle was fierce, but Maya had one final trick up her sleeve. As the Eridani flagship fired its main weapon, she initiated a risky maneuver, calculated dive into the heart of their fire. The Phoenix burst through the flagship's shields just as the Eridani fired, the blast narrowly missing its hull. They were in sight now, and Maya ordered every remaining torpedo to hit the flagship's core. With a deafening explosion, the Eridani flagship shattered, sending debris into the void. The Eridani fleet, leaderless and in chaos, quickly retreated, leaving the humans victorious once again. Maya stood at the helm, staring at the wreckage of the Eridani fleet. The threat was gone, but the message was clear. The galaxy had learned something new today. Humans were not simply prey, they were predators, and they would fight for their place in the stars. We've sent them a message, Ross said, looking over at Maya, one they won't forget. Maya nodded, her eyes glinting with pride, and anyone who thinks they can take us on will learn that lesson, too. She turned to her crew, a quiet smile spreading across her face. Let's head home. The galaxy has a new apex predator, and it's human. The Phoenix sailed off into the stars, knowing that they had earned their place at the top. After the victory over the Eridani, the galaxy had changed. Whispers about humanity's resilience, their adaptability, and their relentless nature spread across star systems. Even the most hardened and terrifying species now viewed humanity with a mixture of fear, respect, and fascination. But with the peace came a new challenge. Other, even darker forces were beginning to take notice. Maya Fletcher stood in her quarters, reviewing reports from the fleet. The Phoenix was not the only ship in the growing human armada. Other fleets, built in the wake of the Eridani defeat, were beginning to take shape. But a new problem had emerged: the Zulthar, an ancient and mysterious species that had never before interacted with humanity. The Zulthar were older than most civilizations. Their dark ships moved silently through space, almost ghostly, and their technology was said to surpass anything even the Eridani had created. They were an enigma, appearing at the edge of the known galaxy and making no move to communicate with the Federation. No one knew what they wanted. But one thing was certain: the Zulthar didn't fear anyone. Until now. The Phoenix was called to a diplomatic mission, one that seemed simple enough on paper, a trade negotiation with the Zulthar. The Federation had hoped that establishing peaceful relations would prevent the Zulthar from viewing humanity as a threat. Maya, however, wasn't so sure. There was a gnawing feeling in her gut, something that told her the Zulthar had no interest in diplomacy. The fleet arrived at the Zulthar homeworld, a planet covered in dark clouds and strange electromagnetic storms. The Phoenix and its accompanying ships dropped out of hyperspace, greeted only by the eerie silence of space. "Sir, the Zulthar flagship is hailing us," reported Lieutenant Ross from the comm station. "They're asking to meet us in their orbit." Maya's instincts flared. It was too easy. She turned to Ross. "Stay on alert. Don't trust anything they say until we've seen it for ourselves." The ship moved into orbit around the Zulthar homeworld, and the crew prepared for what was to come. The Zulthar flagship, a towering structure made of dark metals and glowing, pulsating lights, slowly approached. Captain Maya Fletcher and her senior officers boarded a small shuttle and made their way to the Zulthar flagship. As they entered the alien ship, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The Zulthar had a cold, calculating presence, imposing and almost otherworldly. Their long, slender bodies were wrapped in robes that seemed to shimmer and shift, as though they were made from shadows themselves. Their faces were concealed, with only their eyes visible, glowing with a strange luminescence. The Zulthar leader stepped forward, their voice a low hum that resonated deep within Maya's bones. "Human," the Zulthar leader spoke, "you have entered our domain. Why do you seek to test our patience?" Maya stood tall, Unfazed, she had faced countless threats, but she knew the Sci-Fi were different. They didn't just threaten with weapons, they threatened with their very presence. We came in peace, Maya said firmly, to open a dialogue, to see if there is a way for our people to coexist. The Sci-Fi leader tilted his head, studying her with piercing eyes. You speak of coexistence, but the truth is, humans have become a threat to the balance of the galaxy. You have disrupted the order, toppled one predator after another. The Iridani feared you, and now, we must see if you are a threat to us. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. The Sci-Fi weren't simply assessing humanity, they were already deciding how to eliminate the threat before it even fully manifested. You think you can eliminate us? Maya asked, her voice steady. You think that after everything we've faced, we will simply bow to your will? The Sci-Fi's eyes flickered with something akin to amusement, or perhaps something darker. We do not need to eliminate you, human. We will simply consume you. You are no different from the others who came before you. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The Sci-Fi began to move in a way that made the air feel thick and oppressive. A low hum began to emanate from the walls, a frequency that seemed to vibrate with the intent to paralyze. The ship's gravity seemed to shift, making Maya's team feel heavy and slow. Captain, Ross shouted from the comms, the fleet is under attack. We've been surrounded. Maya's eyes narrowed. The Sci-Fi had made their move. Diplomacy had been nothing more than a trap. Get ready for a fight, she barked. The Phoenix and the other ships in the fleet were already under fire. The Sci-Fi ships, sleek and deadly, moved like shadows, firing energy blasts that seemed to rip through the fabric of space itself. Maya watched as the first few ships in the fleet were obliterated in an instant. Their technology was unlike anything humanity had encountered. The Sci-Fi were not just technologically advanced, they were ruthless predators in their own right. But Maya knew one thing for certain: humans didn't back down, not when faced with impossible odds. Activate the cloaking system, she ordered, and deploy the EMP field. We won't let them outsmart us. The Phoenix vanished into the shadows, its crew scrambling to fight back. The Sci-Fi ships, unable to track them, grew erratic. They couldn't understand how their prey had become so elusive. With every move, the Phoenix began to turn the tide. It wasn't just about firepower. Maya knew that to defeat the Sci-Fi, they had to outthink them, outblast them. Hours of battle passed, and the tide began to shift. The Sci-Fi had underestimated humanity's resilience. They had underestimated human ingenuity. The Phoenix's crew worked like a symphony, counteracting every move the Sci-Fi made. They fought not just with weapons, but with strategies, traps, and sheer will to survive. Finally, with the Sci-Fi flagship nearly disabled, Maya knew they had one last chance. She ordered a final push, a desperate, high-risk maneuver designed to strike at the heart of the Sci-Fi flagship's power core. The Phoenix shot through the void, a streak of defiance and hope. The Sci-Fi flagship's core exploded in a blinding burst of light, and with it, the rest of the fleet disintegrated into nothing. The galaxy was no longer the same. Word of humanity's victory over the Sci-Fi spread like wildfire, and their name was now etched into the annals of galactic history. Humanity had faced an ancient, powerful species that many had thought being in defeat, and not only had they survived, it was humanity that had triumphed. Their reputation as the ultimate predators had been solidified, but in the distance, another storm was brewing. The Phoenix and its crew, having earned their place among the stars, were preparing for what might be their most difficult challenge yet, a challenge not from an external enemy, but from within. Captain Maya Fletcher stood in her quarters, staring at the communications console. On the screen, a face she hadn't seen in years appeared. Commander David Ortega, her former mentor, and now the head of the newly formed Galactic Defense Council. He had a look on his face that she knew too well. It was the look of someone carrying bad news. Maya, Ortega began, his voice steady but burdened. We have a problem. Maya's brow furrowed. What kind of problem? It's the Uter, Ortega said, his tone grave. They've emerged from the dark void, and they're unlike anything we've encountered before. They've been watching us, observing our rise, and now, they've decided humanity's time is up. Maya's heart skipped a beat. The Uter were a race of creatures, so old and so powerful that they were considered legends. No one knew much about them, only that they existed in the deepest, most unexplored regions of space, a race so secretive, that their very existence was thought to be a myth, and even more terrifying was their reputation. "They're coming to wipe us out," Maya asked, her voice unwavering. "Not just us," Ortega replied. "They're coming to exterminate everything they see as a potential rival. The numbers are vast, and their power is beyond anything we've ever seen. They don't just conquer, they annihilate." Maya's fists clenched. The Zolthar had been tough, but the Yuder were a different breed. "How much time do we have?" "Not much," Ortega answered. "They'll arrive in 3 days." Maya gathered a crew, and as always, they were ready. She addressed them in the briefing room, her voice calm but full of the unwavering determination that had made her a leader. "Listen up, everyone," she began. "The Yuder are coming. We don't know what their full capabilities are, but we do know one thing. They will try to crush us, but we're not just going to survive. We're going to make sure they know what happens when they challenge humanity." She paced the room, her eyes meeting the faces of her crew. "The Yuder may have power, but they're not invincible. We've faced down impossible odds before, and we've come out on top, but this time, it's going to take everything we've got, all of us. We're not just fighting for it, we're fighting for the future of the entire galaxy." She paused, her gaze hardening. "We fight together, and we show them exactly why we're not their prey." The room was silent for a moment, then a low murmur of agreement spread through the crew. Ross, her loyal lieutenant, gave a short nod, his expression determined. "We'll make them regret ever crossing us, Captain." The Phoenix launched from the starbase, just as the Yuder fleet appeared on the edge of the solar system. Unlike the sleek, technologically advanced ships of the Eridani and Zolthar, the Yuder ships were monolithic, dark, and angular. Almost organic in design, their hulls were blacker than the void itself, and they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "We've got 3 enemy fleets approaching," Ross reported from the tactical station. "They're moving fast, Captain. We won't be able to outrun them, but they're taking their time almost as if they're savoring the hunt." Maya's eyes narrowed. The Yuder were predators, no doubt about it. They were savoring the hunt, but they had no idea what they were about to face. "Initiate evasive maneuvers," Maya ordered, "and prepare the fleet for battle." The battle raged in the empty vastness of space. The Yuder ships unleashed devastating energy weapons, their blasts tearing through the Phoenix's shields like paper, but Maya and her crew were prepared. The Phoenix had been modified with new technology, designed specifically for this kind of fight. Disruptor shields that could momentarily weaken the Yudar's energy blasts, turning their most powerful weapons into mere flashes of light. But the fight was far from easy. The Yuder fleet outnumbered them, and their ships were nearly indestructible. Every blow dealt to the enemy felt like a victory, but the odds were stacking against them. "Captain, they've deployed ground troops," Ross said urgently. "They're trying to board the ship." Maya's eyes hardened. "Then we'll meet them on the ground. All hands, prepare for combat. No one gets through." The Yuder soldiers, cool and imposing, poured into the Phoenix through breaches in the hull. Their armor was designed to absorb energy, and their weapons could disintegrate anything they touched. But humanity had something they didn't have. The sheer will to fight for survival. The crew of the Phoenix turned their ship into a fortress. The corridors became battlegrounds as humans fought with everything they had. Every inch of the ship was defended, every corner held an ambush. The Yuder were relentless, but they hadn't counted on the sheer tenacity of the humans fighting back. Each soldier that stepped foot on the ship was met with resistance, and they quickly realized that humanity wasn't just surviving, they were fighting to win. Hours passed, and the Yuder fleet began to retreat, their ships crippled by a combination of human ingenuity and brutal combat. Maya watched as the last of their ships disappeared into the distance. "We did it," Ross said, his voice filled with disbelief. Maya allowed herself a moment to breathe, but she didn't relax, not yet. There were too many questions left unanswered. "Not yet," Maya said softly. "We've sent a message. The Yuder won't forget us, but this battle may only be the beginning." The Phoenix returned to the Federation, victorious once more. The Yuder were gone, for now, but Maya knew that the galaxy was far from safe. There were always predators in the dark corners of space, and humanity had proven time and again that it was no one's prey.